Right.
But also welfare is also needed.
Yeah, but not for able-bodied people.
Used to be needed.
Not for able. Well, I will grant you the intentions may have been good and honorable 30 years ago, but they've been bastardized, I think, largely by the absolute collapse of values and standards that were wrought by the 60s generation. And I think those people that gave us that are now in positions of power today. Many of them are in Washington in this administration. And I think there you'll find the root of many of our problems. You look at the illegitimacy rate, you can tie it right to the 60s. You can look at the welfare state, you can tie it right to the 60s. You can look at the abolition of standards and values and right and wrong, tie it right to the 60s.
But you can also look at it and tie it right back to the Republicans that were in office that created, that stopped most of the programs that could have been used wisely.
They didn't.
Instead of the way that they were used.
Would you, hang on just a sec. Bo, call Mrs. Wiggins. On my desk is a column by Donald Lambro. It's a fax. I have in my book, See, I Told You So, chronicled the truth of the 80s. And I have also chronicled how the myths of government cutbacks never happened. Housing cutbacks didn't happen. All of these so-called spending cuts on welfare programs didn't happen. They went up. Now, the rate of increase may have been reduced, but the Republican Party didn't cut back on any transfer payments whatsoever. And I've got a fax on my desk. I'll read the details to you and give you the facts about it.
I can tell you just about what's going to say on your desk. As far as the housing has went up where the people really can't afford it. It's being utilized wrongly.
Well, now, see, that's another thing. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but housing starts in the past 3 months have set records.
Oh, yeah.
More people are buying houses than ever before. Tell you what, hang on here, Prince. Let me take a break, and I'll come back and give you some of these truths, and you can decide for yourself whether to accept them or not. We'll be back
Listening
after
to the
this.
EIB Network. Now, the American Spectator blows the lid off the cover-up that changed the course of the 1992 presidential election. In the January issue at newsstands now, David Brock, author of The Real Anita Hill, uncovers a pattern of lies and law-breaking, including misuse of public funds and services for the facilitation of numerous extramarital affairs. Brock reveals that even after Bill and Hillary Clinton proclaimed on 60 Minutes that their marital difficulties were over, the affairs, deceptions, and abuse of public trust and money continued, right up to the inauguration. This astonishing report, the result of months of investigation, exposes unlawful attempts by administration staffers and the president himself to suppress this story and sheds new shocking light on the suicide of Vince Foster. Call 800-331-8848 and we'll open your subscription to the American Spectator today, starting with the blockbuster January issue. Call 800-331-8848. For $34.95, you'll get 12 issues of the American Spectator, including this major investigative report in your very first issue. Call 800-331-8848 now.
Well, I'm sure you've heard the news by now. Perhaps you saw the ad in your paper today. Furniture Fair, Jacksonville, Goldsboro, Greenville, coming off the biggest year in their history, 1993, has unleashed a savings opportunity for you. That means even more in 1994, and this is the final weekend of that amazing offer. Today, 10 till 9, tomorrow, 10 till 9, you can join the crowds at Furniture Fair. Select everything you need in new furniture because, listen to this, with any furniture purchase of $399 or more, $399 worth, $1,000 worth, $3,000 worth, $5,000 worth. Are you ready? No down payment, no finance charge, no monthly payment, nothing until next year. That's fabulous. That's Furniture Fair. That's today, tomorrow, final weekend. See those ads.
The same movies all month long. Stations you don't like. A bill that gets bigger as the service gets smaller. Sound familiar? Yes, it sounds like I'm tied to the railroad tracks and you're Snidely Whiplash. AIM Electronics has the answer to the TV blues. The Tar Heel antenna, specially made for this area, picks up both UHF and VHF frequency, giving you the area stations you want with great reception at just $49.95, and there's no monthly bill. AIM Electronics, 411 East Ash Street, Goldsboro.
Save big on your choice of new vehicles at Leaf Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle Dodge Isuzu. Save on 94 Jeep Cherokees, 4-door sport, only $17,920. And now save on a new 94 Dodge Shadow, only $86.95, or a 94 Dodge Spirit with automatic air and cruise as low as $12,295. And for the truck lovers, see the new Dodge Dakota Sport, only $12,495. At Leaf Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle Dodge Isuzu, Highway 70 West Goldsboro. All payments based on 20% down, all prices plus tax, tags, and $138 dock fee.
Guiding light through times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, tumult, imagined crises, and general discontent. I am Rush Limbaugh, lover of mankind, protector of motherhood, supporter of fatherhood in some cases, and general all-around good guy here on the EIB Network. All right, Mary in Cincinnati and the rest of you, here's the answer to the question: does the appointment of a special prosecutor supersede the statute of limitations? The answer is no. However, a cat and mouse game can ensue. Remember that an indictment is one of the easiest things in the world to get. A grand jury can indict itself. I mean, you don't have to, the prosecutor can go in there and say, look, I got this, this, and this, and I want an indictment. The grand jury says, fine. They can indict the prosecutor if they don't like him. I mean, it's that easy. I know this because my dad was a lawyer. My whole family are lawyers. So here's what can happen. Statute of limitations of Whitewater Gate goes to March. The special prosecutor can go to the people involved and say, we're going to indict you before March. We're going to indict you just to make sure that we get this done before the statute. The people who are then subject to the indictment can say, no. Let us prove to you that there's no reason to indict us. And then furnish all records, all documents, and so forth, which ought to be done now anyway. Or they can roll the dice and say they got nothing on us. Let them indict us. We'll take our lumps, take our chances. So the appointment of a special prosecutor will bring it to a head one way or the other. But there has to be an indictment. And that's easy. I mean, really, it's one of the easiest things in the American legal system to get an indictment. Now, I don't have enough time. By the way, we lost Prince from Winter Haven, Florida, and it was my mistake. I hit the hang up, I hit the off button instead of the hold button, but I thought we had a chance to get back to him soon enough. It was only seconds. But he wasn't there when we went back. But I know he's still out there listening. So in the monologue in the next segment, I'm going to go through, it's about time I did this, codified it in this way, just go through all of these so-called myths of the 80s, and then give you the facts. Remember what I always say, though, and you will be put to the test, you leftists. You're going to listen to this show without having a knee-jerk conniption fit. You must have the courage to face the truth. That's what we do here. Relentlessly pursue it. We find it, and we tell it. It's like a light shining on those people out there. And you are going to have the courage to believe and face the truth, because it's coming at you next.
Save big on your choice of new vehicles at Leaf Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle Dodge Isuzu. Save on 94 Jeep Cherokees and the 94 Jeep Wrangler 4x4. The 1994 Chrysler Concorde is only $22,782. And save now on the new 94 Dodge Shadow. And for the truck lovers, see the new Dodge Dakota Sport. Also save on minivans and caravans at Leaf Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle Dodge Isuzu, Highway 70 West Goldsboro. All payments based on 20% down, all prices plus tax, tags, and $138 dock fee.
Sometimes my kids can drive me nuts. The other night, the 5-year-old says he can't eat the omelet I made. Says he's never eaten this kind before, can't possibly start now. Ask him why. Says because it has edges on it. Never has before. I said, of course they have. It's inherent in the form. All omelets have edges. Says he's scared of edges. Have you ever tried to make an omelet without an edge?
Break the eggs, but not the spirits. The Mennonite churches.
WGBR, Goldsboro's very own.
From ABC News, I'm Gary Nunn. You are killing your kids if you smoke near them. A warning today from the Surgeon General of the United States, Joycelyn Elders.
Exposure to secondhand smoke causes up to 300,000 lower respiratory infections each year in children less than 18 months of age. These needless infections result in over 7,000 to 15,000 hospitalizations yearly.
Elders releases a smoking report as part of a campaign to convince adults to go cold turkey with kids around. 6 Grammy nominations for Sting, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Best Song. Sting's If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. It's been 10 years since its last nomination. The theme from the movie Aladdin received Grammy nominations for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. A Whole New World by Peebo Bryson and Regina Bell. The Grammys will be passed out March 1st in New York. Former House Speaker Thomas Tip O'Neill is being remembered by the current Speaker, Tom Foley.
Well, it's a great tragedy. I think those of us who knew Tip so well felt that he was the model of a representative and a speaker.
Massachusetts Democratic Senator Edward Kennedy's reaction.
Tip O'Neill was a giant, really a giant in every way, a giant of a man, a giant of a speaker, a giant of a friend.
Tip O'Neill arrived in Washington, an unknown successor of then Representative John F. Kennedy, and went home 35 years later as one of the country's top Democrats. Tip O'Neill died yesterday of a heart attack. He was 81 years old. President Clinton is going home today to be with relatives and friends following the death of his mother early this morning at her home near Hot Springs, Arkansas. Virginia Kelly, who was 70 years old, died of complications from breast cancer. You're listening to ABC News.
For thousands of great sale items, these are the best weeks to buy at Sears Brand Central. Save $30 on our 18 cubic foot Kenmore top mount refrigerator. Now just $599.99. And get a free factory installed ice maker, a $100 value. Save $200 on a huge 22 cubic foot Kenmore side-by-side refrigerator featuring through the door ice, crushed ice, and water dispenser. Now just $999.99. But only through January 8th at Sears Brand Central. So hurry to Sears during the best weeks to buy. Prices may vary in Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico.
What are your New Year's resolutions?
Lose 10 pounds, run a marathon, plan my retirement, start an herb garden, and learn Spanish.
That's a lot of work.
Piece of cake. I sent for National Dynamic Speed Tapes and their free cassette player. Listen to the tapes for 20 minutes a day. In a month, you'll speak and understand Spanish, French, German, Italian, or Japanese.
What about your other resolutions?
Well, I'll get to them later.
Start 1994 off right. Call National Dynamics at 1-800-545-1985 today.
Did I mention paint the house?
1-800-545-1985.
The horrors of the Bosnian Civil War detailed in a new book by a 13-year-old girl who kept a diary, graphic detail of the struggles to survive amid the fighting and the dying in Sarajevo in the past months. ABC's Barbara Giudice reports the child is a modern-day Anne Frank. The book is a bestseller in France.
In fact, she wrote to an imaginary friend called Mimi, just like Anne Frank did, and she was extremely worried about how long the war would go on. She said if things go on like this, she could be 20 before the war ended, and if it were like Lebanon, it could go on till she was 30, and she was worried that her whole childhood, her youth, and her whole life would be gone in the war.
13-year-old Zlata Filipovic is being regarded as a celebrity in France. She and her family have been moved to Paris by the French government. Saturday is Elvis Presley's birthday. American and Northwest Airlines are offering special airfares for those who want to day trip to Memphis. Jim Faulkner of Northwest has a suggestion for people who want to go.
The only advice is, someone wants to fly along with you to Memphis, don't be cruel, take them along.
The special fares between Memphis and 32 cities in the South and the Midwest are good for Saturday only. By the way, it's Elvis Presley's 59th birthday. A grand jury in Austin, Texas, re-indicts Texas Republican Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, one of the official misconduct charges tossed out by a judge just last week. Wall Street Dow Jones Industrials are now up 5.62 at 3804.44. Volume 255,300,000 shares. The trading is heavy. This is ABC News.
I'm David Orrick. I'd like you to try my 8-pound Orrick XL Hotel Vacuum on your thickest carpets, bare floors, closets, corners, upstairs, under furniture, on dog hair and cat hair. And if you're not thrilled with the Orrick XL, you don't buy it. No strings. Look, you wouldn't go to a restaurant and pay for a meal before you eat it. Then why would you ever want to pay for a vacuum before you try it? Call 1-800-989-4200. That's 1-800-989-4200 for my free brochure.
For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary Nunn.
Hey, so how are you and your credit card getting along? Still friends? Even with those double-digit interest rates? Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, how about this idea? Move your balance over to a Wachovia first-year Prime Visa or MasterCard and pay just 6% interest the first year. That's right, 6% on your credit card balance. So you can pay off your balance and pocket a couple of $100 you would have paid in interest. And the annual fee is just $18. So you got 5 minutes? That's all it takes to apply. Just stop by any branch or call 1-800-842-3262 and ask about first-year Prime Visa or MasterCard. So where do you get one of the lowest credit card rates in the country? From Wachovia Personal Banking. It's a welcome change.
APR effective December 15th, 1993. First-year rate based on the Wall Street Journal prime rate and may vary monthly. After first year, APR is 3.9% plus the Wall Street Journal prime rate. Other conditions apply. Member FDIC.
WGBR.
Folks, and welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program, where the objective is acquiring the largest audience ever and holding it. The relentless pursuit of the truth is our primary weapon in so accomplishing our objective. Plus, it's a good show. Anybody asks you, why are you listening to Rush Limbaugh show? Just tell them, it's a great show. It's not that complicated. It's a good show.
This is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program, America Held Hostage. And now, from our studios in New York City, here is Rush Limbaugh.
We're going to be here every day through this crisis, ladies and gentlemen. Just as Ted Koppel was there every night during the Iranian hostage crisis. Today, day 352. For the poor and middle class of America, the rich and the dead are already into their second year of torment. This is day 371. There are 1,108 days remaining. Okay. Truth about the 80s. Prince, Winter Haven, Florida, calls up, wants to know why everybody that's not rich suffered during the 80s. I have an impeccable source. Me. I am reading now from page 113, page 114, and page 115 of See, I Told You So. My second book, which, in case you missed the first hour, is on record as the fastest selling book in history. 2 million copies in 6 weeks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much. That's incredible. 2 million copies in 6 weeks. Here's the truth of the 80s. Average real family income grew by well over 15% from 1982 to 1989. The numbers come from the census. For the poorest fifth of Americans, real income grew almost 12%. Yet everybody thinks that the poor got poorer. Families earning more than $50,000 in 1990 went from less than 25% of families in 1980 to 31% in 1990. That means the number of families earning more than $50,000 went up. The percentage of families earning less than $15,000 a year dropped. According to the U.S. Treasury's Office of Tax Analysis, of those who were in the bottom fifth income bracket in 1979, 65% jumped at least 2 income brackets during the 80s. In fact, more made it all the way to the top than stayed in the poorest group. Taxpayers were 5 times more likely to increase their income than have it fall. Federal Reserve data show that families with incomes between $10,000 and $50,000 a year experienced a higher percentage of growth in net worth than those in the top 1/5 income group. The top 1% paid more than 25% of all federal income taxes in 1990, a 40% increase over 1980. This is according to the Democrat-controlled Congressional Budget Office. I'm going to read that to you again because it said the rich didn't pay their fair share. The top 1% paid more than 25% of all federal income taxes in 1990. A 40% increase over 1980, this according to the CBO. The bottom 60% paid 11% of federal taxes in 1990. That's an incredible statistic. The bottom 60% paid 11% of federal taxes in 1990, 20% less than they paid in 1980. The black middle class grew rapidly from 2.6 million households with incomes of $25,000 or more in 79 to 3.9 million households with incomes of $25,000 or more in 1989. The black middle class grew 2.6 million households to 3.9 million households. Now you may say, well, that's not much. Hey, don't forget the story. The story is that they got worse off. Between 1983 and 1989, the total population with an unprecedented number of poor entering the workforce. Now, all this is true, and you may say, how can it be? The reason it can be, and you don't believe it, is because the press and Democrats have labored long and hard to revise the truth of the 1980s, because the information I'm giving you is the single biggest reason to get rid of liberalism in toto. Conservative policies, economic policies worked profoundly well, terrifically well. The proverbial misery index took a nosedive. We experienced sustained economic growth without inflation, low unemployment, and low interest rates. Also, some 20 million new jobs are created, 82% of which were in the higher skilled, higher paying occupations. The poor were not neglected. Federal spending on the poor for income, food, health care, housing, education, training, and social services increased. Between 1978 and 1982, the number of poor blacks rose by more than 2 million as a result of Jimmy Carter's economic policies. However, between 1982 and 1989, the number of poor blacks fell by 400,000. The 1980s was a decade of greatly increased personal and corporate charitable giving. In fact, the 80s saw the American people give more to charity than in any previous decade. And yet you've heard the 80s was nothing but selfishness and greed. Despite the charge that the rich got richer and the poor got poorer and the middle class was almost decimated during the 80s, all income groups, and I wrote this in bold, all income groups from the poorest to the richest experienced real income gains. Yet during the Carter years, when liberalism was flourishing, only the income of the top 1% grew. The share of income gains going to the top 1% of families was 160% higher under Carter than under Reagan. Between 1982 and 1989, real after-tax income per person rose by 15.5%. Real median income of families before taxes went up 12.5%. Despite the charge that the rich got richer and pay less tax, the poor got poorer and pay more. Between 1980 and 1992, the wealthy not only paid more income taxes in actual dollars, they paid a greater share of income taxes as a percentage of their income compared to other income groups. The income taxes as a percentage of their income of all income groups was reduced, with each of the four lowest quintile groups experiencing greater percentage reductions than those income groups above them. In other words, all income groups paid less taxes as a percentage of their income during the Reagan years, but the poor received the most relief, the middle class the next, and the rich the least relief. Further, the rich paid a greater share of all taxes paid in the 1980s than in the Carter years. And I have a chart on the next page, page 116, which shows all of this. It's right there. Here, look, here it is. Right there. That's the chart. Now look at it and believe it. But Rush, isn't it a fact that Reagan cut poverty programs? Didn't he destroy the social safety net? No. Federal spending on poverty programs in 1991 dollars increased from $140 billion in 82 to $180 billion in 1991. An annual growth rate of 3%. In other words, the welfare state grew under Reagan, and liberals are still complaining. That's from my book. And now Donald Lambro's column. Right here. Myth. The 1980s were especially bad years for women and minorities. Fact. The number of women-owned businesses almost doubled between 1982 and 1990, according to the National Foundation for Women's Business Owners. In fact, do you know, I learned this while I was on vacation last week, that women are starting businesses at a rate 2 to 1 higher over men right now in America? It's true. It's true. Female businesses not only shot up from 2.9 million to 5.4 million during the 80s, women-owned businesses now employ more people than all the Fortune 500 companies combined. Believe that? How can that be, Rush? How can it be? Because women were so mistreated and subjugated and disrespected during the 80s. No, they weren't. Fact. Real earnings, which stagnated for women and then declined during the 70s, began rising again in 82, and since then, weekly earnings of women workers have increased 18% faster than those of men. But Rush, women still earn 50 cents for every dollar men earn. Wrong. It's not quite up to parity yet, but it is getting better for women all the time. Fact. Unemployment among blacks and Hispanics not only fell during the 80s, a larger percentage of them were employed in managerial and professional positions during this time than ever before. Between 83 and 91, black employment increased 46%. Hispanic employment went up 84% in these two better-paying job categories. Myth. The rich did not pay their fair share of federal taxes under the Reagan tax cuts of 81. Fact. The wealthiest 5% of all Americans ended up paying 43% of all federal income taxes in 1990. Up from 36.4% in 1980. The richest 10% paid nearly 54% of all taxes in 1990, compared to 48.8% 10 years earlier. Myth. Raising taxes on the rich results in the rich paying more of their share. Fact. After the 1990 tax increase, tax receipts from the rich began to decline steadily. In 1991, tax receipts from the top 850,000 income earners fell by $6.5 billion, or 6.1%. And we had this information last year during the debate on the 1993 budget deal in our attempt to get people to not support it. Myth. Middle-class incomes fell during the 80s. Fact. Average real family income rose 8.3% during the 80s and by 16.3% for single people, according to the census. Myth. The poverty rate worsened during the 80s. Fact. The number of poor people rose during 3 out of the 4 Carter years, 78 to 81, as the country began to slide into the recession, while the official government poverty rate fell in 6 out of the 8 Reagan years. Myth. Federal assistance to local governments was sharply reduced during the 80s. Fact. While direct federal aid to cities declined during this period, the federal government increased block grants and other forms of aid to the states proportionally. At the same time, state under-government grants to local governments rose 94% from 1980 to 1989. I mean, the facts are indisputable. I'm not making any of this up, because I don't want to be wrong. I'm telling you, the way you know this is true is that the guy responsible for it won 2 landslide elections. The guy who promised to keep these policies going won big over Michael Dukakis. And when he failed to keep these policies going, he lost in a landslide. We'll be back after this as we return to your phone calls.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
You know, my friends, I've read dozens of comments from satisfied owners of allergy-free electrostatic air filters. You've heard all the claims right here, from cleaner homes to fewer allergy symptoms. Well, a crack EIB staff has interviewed some allergy-free filter owners. Listen to this.
My wife had been sneezing and her sinuses had been draining whenever the AC was on. The first night we installed the allergy-free filter, she noticed a big improvement.
The allergy-free filter is so easy. We just take it out, about every 30 days, and we flush it out with a water hose. It's great. My husband doesn't mind doing it at all.
After only 24 hours, I can tell a difference. I don't think I will ever regret buying this filter.
My family is amazed at the difference in the air. Even my Sheltie sniffs the air, and he notices a difference.
My wife snores less, too.
Okay, folks, what more do you need? Get your credit card ready along with your filter size and call 1-800-ALLERGY. You owe it to yourself and your family. And if you mention the EIB Network, you get 25% off the retail price. Call Allergy Free now, 1-800-ALLERGY.
Let me tell you about Ginsana, the energizing product. Ginsana is the first standardized ginseng extract scientifically tested for 25 years. If you get tired easily, if you've lost your competitive edge, take Ginsana. All-natural Ginsana. It's energizing America. Ginsana from SunSource Health Products. Products that work naturally. For a free brochure, call 800-777-2000. 800-777-2000.
Ginsana. Ginsana. Ginsana.
Well, I'm sure you've heard the news by now. Perhaps you saw the ad in your paper today. Furniture Fair, Jacksonville, Goldsboro, Greenville, coming off the biggest year in their history, 1993, has unleashed a savings opportunity for you. That means even more in 1994, and this is the final weekend of that amazing offer. Today, 10 to 9, tomorrow, 10 to 9, you can join the crowds at Furniture Fair. Select everything you need in new furniture because, listen to this, with any furniture purchase of $399 or more, $399 worth, $1,000 worth, $3,000 worth, $5,000 worth. Are you ready? No down payment, no finance charge, no monthly payment, nothing until next year. That's fabulous. That's Furniture Fair. That's today, tomorrow, final weekend. See those ads.
Moo-hoo?
Yeah, Lloyd.
Listen, I have an idea that could radically advance civilization as we know it.
Hey, we're prehistoric men. Let's not get fancy.
Now, imagine this. We come back to the cave after a long day of berry gathering and woolly mammoth hunting.
Yeah.
We put our feet up on a rock and relax by a roaring fire.
Fire, what's that?
It's a hot burning thing we can use to cook.
The woolly mammoth?
No, the berries.
Where'd we get this fire?
Well, we invented it. You see, all we need is some flint to make sparks, and they got loads of flint over in Thor's village.
No, we don't want to have to talk to them. They're old, a different color, they're bad dancers.
All right, we'll go to the Valley of the Sophies then.
Women? You want to deal with women? They're not like us. Forget it.
Hey, listen, if this fire thing works, we're talking big bucks.
Okay, maybe that new immigrant tribe has flint.
You want to talk to foreigners? Hey, I'd rather talk to the tribe that uses wheelchairs.
Okay, forget it. Fire is probably a stupid idea. Let's just eat our berries cold.
Oh, good. Pass the cream.
Where'd you get that fire idea?
I heard some guys in the Woosley tribe talking about it.
No wonder. What if bald guys know?
The Leadership Conference Education Fund and the Advertising Council remind you that our strength, our progress depend on our diversity.
As promised, back to the, oh, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it now. I'm thinking about it. Yesterday, there was a major protest of the homeless in New York City. It was a protest aimed at the new mayor, Rudy Giuliani, and his son, Andrew. Because Mr. Giuliani has said, I'm going to get tough on these people, these clowns that are out there illegally squeegeeing windshields and then holding people up for money as a result. You can't do that in New York. It's against the law, but the previous mayor, General Dinkins, chose not to enforce it. Giuliani has said that he will. And so, an army of 200 homeless people. And what have I always said? You get the homeless out there and you get the same, but you get homeless, you get pro-choicers, you get environmentalist wackos, you get Greenpeacers, animal rights idiots, homeless, gays, all part of the same constituency group, and they all show up. One of them has a parade, they all join. And so it was yesterday here in the Mecca of liberalism, New York City. An army of 200 homeless people, AIDS activists, and civic leaders staged a 2-hour march from Tompkins Square to City Hall to protest what they called Giuliani's war on the homeless. It's not a war on the homeless. It is a war on crime. Exactly what the voters of New York City elected him to do. Waving squeegees in the air and angrily blasting the mayor's plans to crack down on people who wash motorist windshields at intersections. Note the article does not say here illegally. A crowd chanted, "No squeegee, no peace." Thank you, South Central Los Angeles. Thank you, Maxine Waters. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. No squeegee, no peace. So we have the homeless army, AIDS activists, a bunch of other criminal types threatening violence if they are prosecuted and pursued. They also toted an empty coffin to honor homeless activist Terry Taylor, a founder of Tompkins Square Park's infamous Tent City. He died of AIDS last month. No squeegee, no peace. I say no squeegee, no homeless, on this, no crime. Just get them out of the civilized sections of the city.
I ain't got a mother. I ain't got a father. I ain't got a sister. Not even a brother. I'm a lonely bro. Mr. E. I know. Me that will rush Limbo. So what you saying to me?
You know when your throat's so sore, it feels like you swallowed some nails? You need medicine, not those candy cough drops. You need Cepacol lozenges. But what if your throat feels like you swallowed some nails, a few rivets, a small file, and topped it off with a 3.5 horsepower circular saw? Then you need really strong medicine. You need Cepastat lozenges. Cepacol for sore throats. Cepastat for really sore throats. Use only as directed.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
This is Wayne Alley. The Wayne County Board of Elections voted 2-1 yesterday to recommend Mrs. Suzanne W. Sutherland of Seven Springs for the position of County Election Supervisor. Mrs. Sutherland is employed by the Wayne County Sheriff's Office as Supervisor of Dispatchers and Part-Time Dispatchers and the Secretaries of Finance and Investigations. She's been with the Sheriff's Department since 1989 and was employed by Wayne Internal Medicine Associates previously. Mrs. Sutherland's reference includes Sheriff James Sasser. An Elections Board member said Mrs. Sutherland advised the board that the sheriff had recommended that she apply for the position. Also, Elections Board member Francis Whitfield said Mrs. Sutherland advised the board that she had no political experience except for Democratic rallies with the Sheriff's Department. The board's recommendation that she be employed as supervisor has been sent to State Elections Chairman Gary Bartlett of Goldsboro, who will make the decision. An engineer and regional project manager for T.A. Loving Company filed yesterday to oppose incumbent Marlene Harrell for the District 4 seat on the Wayne County Board of Education. John P. Phil Grantham said he's concerned about getting outside experts to analyze the school system's strengths and weaknesses, and he's also concerned about multicultural curriculum and its potential for polarization.
Concerned with the multicultural approach that people are taking to the curriculum, or the multicultural curriculum that seems to be coming to the forefront. I think it's being divisive. I think it polarizes our society, and I don't think that most of the people in the county, in my district, are for it.
Grantham said he thought over the past several months the matter of running for the school board and has a lot of support.
Yes, I have. Everybody I've talked to has been encouraged. And they feel like that Marlene Harrell is a fine lady, but she's not she's intimidated and not wanting to speak out on issues. And I think we need someone that will speak up, and we can have some discussions instead of just going along with what comes up.
4th District Wayne School Board candidate John P. Phil Grantham. The Mount Olive Town Board explored means for resolving problems in a number of areas in a work session last night, but made no decisions. Discussions indicated the board most likely will look at a pay plan that was completed some time back and consider whether it should be implemented. I'm Wayne Alley.
I like houses, and I really want to live in one.
If you'd like more information about how you can afford a home of your own, call the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development at 1-800-767-4HUD or contact a real estate agent and let us help you own a piece of America. Paid for by HUD, an equal housing opportunity seller.
If I grew up in a house, I would love it.
What are we trying to do here? Put the audience to sleep? You got some up-tempo bumper tunes. What happened to the thing that you play? What happened to the creative button? We'll do it now. Or you need to set it up? All right. We'll save it. 1-8. You got something up-tempo, though? Put it in there. Button, fire it away. This is a high-energy, up-tempo show today. It'd help if it was music. Playing some of the finest bumper music in America, I am Rush Limbaugh, known as the Vein Brain. Single-handedly redefining masculinity in the 90s. Quote, Florence King in the latest National Review. Detroit, Lydia, hello. I'm glad you held on. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Rush.
Hi.
I want you to know that I am a second-generation Mexican-American, and the bone I have to pick with you is that you have fallen into the trap set by the rest of the media, which assumes that most Hispanics are liberal. That's not the case.
What did I say that makes you think that?
Well, when you were talking about the increased immigration, and then when there was in Stanford that sit in by those kids who
At Stanford, it was, if we're talking about the same thing, Stanford was a professor and his teaching assistant running around giving away federal grant money to immigrants. Illegal.
Okay.
Immigrants.
But the general tone is I tend to think that you believe that most Hispanics are liberal, and when that's not the case.
I haven't thought about it. When I'm talking, in fact, I think you're confusing me with somebody or confusing something I've said, because in recent days what I've discussed has been illegal immigration in California. Now, you may be assuming that I'm being critical of Hispanics, Mexican-speaking people, or Mexicans coming into the United States, and since I'm being critical of some of the immigration spokesmen out there who claim that the American way is for hardworking Americans to give away what they've produced to illegal aliens in the form of education, health care, and welfare, you may assume that I am assuming that the recipients are all liberal, but I'm not. I'm suggesting to you that the advocates of illegal immigrants, the advocates of anything that says, let's take from the public treasury and give away to people who aren't producing anything and have no right to it, that's a liberal in my book. Now, I'm not in fact, just to give you an idea of how wrong you are, there is, and I've said this a lot of times on the show, I'm sorry you've missed it, of all the immigrants in this country, there are a number of, there's one particular group of immigrants, Hispanics maybe, I don't know precisely, but they're Cubans. There's one particular group, the Cuban immigrants in this country. There's one group of immigrants that's going to leave the first chance they get. The others are not. They're here to stay for as long as they can. The Cubans, as soon as Fidel is fini, then the Cubans are going to go back to Cuba, and they're going to rebuild it, and they're going to reclaim it, and they are going to, I expect Cuba to become the hugest resort area in the Western Hemisphere within a few short years at the end of Fidel. Now that, and the Cubans in Miami especially, this is a very conservative bunch. Some of the biggest support that Ronald Reagan, for example, ever had could be found among the Cuban population of Miami, of Florida. So I'm sorry you have that notion. I don't think of Hispanics one way or the other.
really, I don't think of too many groups as one way or the other until I know what their leadership claims that they feel like. Black leadership is obviously very liberal.